Alter Ego Xer here, as in Gen Xer. How you guys doing? And I want to talk about an alternative to being a passport bro. Lately, in the last couple of years, there's been some controversy, major controversy, and the passport movement, as far as what I see, I'm being my own critic. I'm not too impressed on the content. It seems to be same old, but it really doesn't show the two cultures coming together as much as I would. I feel like if you're serious about, if you're just going to hook up with girls, that's different. But if you're looking for a girlfriend and heading towards wife, which means you're going to probably be older, then, I can understand that. But this is for the ones who are serious, who want to go to the next level, okay? There is an alternative, being a local passport bro. Now, what you see here is an event that's going on. It is called the Ube Fest here in California. It's a Filipino one. And, yeah, man, there are families out there too, but there are women there, as you see the one with the green Crocs on and her girlfriend with the jeans on, and they're looking at, and I kind of heard their conversation. They're out there single and mingling and that sort of thing. And the women that you want to look for will not be in the clubs, will not be in there. They will go to things like this. And I'm going to kind of bring this up, and I'm going to say this works mostly for Asian, like if it's Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, Thai, Vietnamese, as well as Hispanic, South American, right? And possibly Indian. Now, as far as white people, you're trying to get yourself a Becky, they're kind of all over the place and you can kind of shoot your shot. But specifically, if you're trying to get someone, ethnic like what I just named, then this is for you. They have events. And I got these skewers right here. They were fire. We were talking a little bit there. Those were so good. Yeah, you see me pointing at it. And here's a DJ here. What you want to do is go to these events and you want to network. You can go to these places by yourself, which I have done in the past before I met my wife. And I would get business cards like the DJ that you see there. And what happens is they're people who know people who know people. And they'll invite you to events. They'll invite you into things. And you know what I mean? And lo and behold, they might even try to hook you up with somebody. The music was really good. You see him dancing. I was dancing. He's like, what's up? We had a girl out here, a Filipino girl. She could sing. I think she was like 18 or 19. I said something right there, and that girl laughed at a comment I made right there. But no, these events happen. And if you're serious about, like I said, meeting someone who is family oriented, that respects you as a man and has really good culture, I'm just going to say these are the type of events you want to go to. They will point you out, like you just see this picture here and that sort of thing. So they have these events spring and summer usually. There's Hispanic ones, there's Japanese ones, and like I said, you want to talk to the vendors, not necessarily the individuals there. And how you do that, I will explain later, but I'm going to kind of go through what's going here. This is a food festival. If you don't know what ube is, it's like this purple yam kind of plant. It's kind of sweet. It's mostly for desserts. It's also called taro, if you've ever had any of the like boba, milk tea kind of stuff. And they used it in all kind of dishes here, and it was absolutely fabulous. And you just have everybody out there. It's a nice positive vibe. And get this, all the music that was playing there loud that you saw the DJ, it was all black music. Swear to God, all black music from the 90s to the 2000s. And when it got to the evening, people were even dancing, and there's some bro, like you see a bro right there. There he is. And if you have some Filipino friends, that's great. and that sort of thing. You see people dressed different ways, like that guy right there in his suit. So definitely, I know it's kind of awkward and stuff like that. You're like, what? No, this is right here. I'm going to show you the most important part of the video. This is the Ube Fest main, I guess I want to say main tent or main vendor. And this is where you get the contact information. You don't want to join or anything. You just say, hey, do you guys have other events? You just want to be on their mailing list. You want to be friendly to the staff, and they will start to invite you places, and they'll get to know you, and you'll start networking, meeting people, going to stuff, having a great time. And yeah, like for example, this guy right here, I've been there 3 times, and guess what? He's like, yeah, you back? I'm like, yeah. So he remembers me already, and you know, he's already talking about another location I should go to. You know what I mean? And that sort of thing. As far as going back to meeting women and things like that, you see these 3 girls right here. I did a snapshot so you can see what they kind of look like from behind. I don't want to be too obvious or whatever, but these 3 girls were single. I heard their conversation. You know, you do laps around and whatever, and they were single. Now I'm going to show you something interesting that happened right here. Blink and you might miss it, but see the girl in the denim shorts there, right? She was staring right at me, and I think it's because I know some Filipino words. You know, I'm not fluent or anything like that. But basically, I named a dish that I really love, and I said, oh, I love sig. And I got a plate that said salamat, which means thank you. You know, and I just said it so, because I've said it like 1,000 times. And her hearing that, and I'm a foreigner, made her kind of look. And if you look at her, she's kind of looking my direction. And when I was there, you know, filming, I actually felt that too. So I watched the video again, and I took the snapshot, and there it is. And you see her friend there with her boyfriend or husband, you know, with the dog and stuff like that. So it definitely can happen that someone is eyeing you. And what do you do in this situation? Well, one reason why when I used to be single and I would go to these events is that if I saw something like this is how I would approach it. A festival is a great place to do it versus just like out in the wild, like almost like cold calling. But something like this is perfect because this is what happens. This is literally what I've done. Is that I would walk over to where she is, and I would say something like, what have you guys had? You know what I mean? Do you recommend? You know what I mean? You want to talk about the food. You want to talk about whatever they're in front of or what are they eating. You don't want to come up like you're just automatically trying to talk to the girl and try to get her info. You know what I mean? And this is what I was wearing. You know what I mean? So when she heard me speak a little Tagalog and stuff like that, she kind of turned around. You know, I had my shades on, the sun, that sort of thing. But no, man. And you just ask them, what do you recommend or whatever. And you want to talk to everybody there, especially the bruh, the man that was there, the Filipino guy right there. You look him straight on. You want to acknowledge everybody, right? And just ask like, what do they recommend or something like that. And then you want to go back to her, you know, just real quick and say, well, what's your favorite? Then you focus on her. And then she would say, you know, depending on her answer and depending on body language, you know what I mean? Does she seem energetic? Does she, you know, standoffish? Then you can just pretend, you know what I mean? You could play it off like, I was just asking about food. Not that you say that. But once you get a feeling like, okay, if they're standoffish, I would just go, okay, thanks, and walk off like fast. So I don't even hint that I was trying to, you know what I mean, talk to her. But let's say it's going good and she names her favorite or whatever like that. And you say, well, I would love to try that too. You mind if we, you know, can try that later sometime next week or whatever. You want to do something like that. Can I get your info? And then that's how you go and that sort of thing. That's how I would do it. And it has worked. You know what I mean? One thing about Asians, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, Vietnamese, and Thai food. Talking about food, you're halfway there if you could eat the food and talk about the food, get to know them, and stuff like that, it's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? And you don't have to go to a 5-star restaurant. You know what I mean? You can just either a place or you can ask them. You want to get to know them, so you could even ask for their advice and stuff like that. And that way it's free flowing. You know what I mean? And that's how I've dated Japanese. I haven't dated Korean, but I have dated Japanese, Thai, and obviously Filipino. Japanese, Thai, Filipino. Yeah, those three. So not Korean and not Vietnamese. But anyway, that is what, in order to meet someone, and let me say this also, if you're still there, don't talk to a whole bunch of girls because you'll do laps if you're going to stay there. Like, your mission there was to meet someone, and you did. You met someone. Now, in my experience, since these festivals, people do laps around and hang out maybe like maximum hour and a half to 2 hours. If you're satisfied, that I would say no more than 2. And, if you're trying to get, meet some people and stuff like that, hopefully she doesn't see you, get the second one. She might think you're a playboy, and nice girls think that way. Like, if she sees you talking to like 2 more girls or, 3 more girls, and you're, doing the same thing and even saying the same thing, if she overhear, and you don't know that, you could say the exact same thing and she could be behind you. You don't know, which, believe it or not, has happened to your boy. That has happened. So I would say, depending on your situation, definitely if you're satisfied with the 1 or 2, like I said, max, I think is 2 in this particular situation. Eat and run, or if you've already eaten, get a dessert. You know what I mean? You can still hang out. I'm not telling you got to leave immediately, but that air of mystery is very important until you guys talk and communicate again. If she sees you there roaming around, for the next hour and a half, can kind of break the illusion of like, ooh, that guy just came up to me and all this other stuff. You know what I mean? So you want that, at least that mystery a little bit, and, go somewhere else. You can go back to the crib or whatever and figure out your game plan there. And these events also too, they have it the next day. So, you could leave early, come back the next day. And if you're serious about the food and things you didn't try, come back the next day and then really, ingratiate yourself into the desserts and the fried rice and the food and, the memorabilia and the t-shirts. Cause I got some stickers, I got some keychains. So I actually bought some things that were actually there. So anyway, that works for, believe it or not, I've even did that at Hispanic and Mexican festivals, like an art festival. That actually worked. I was talking about, I don't know anything about art, but there was a girl looking and I said, can you draw that? Or you paint that? And I knew she wasn't the vendor. She was just looking, and she was there with 2 other girls. And they were like, nah. I was like, would you get that? Would you pay that price for that? And they're like, no. So I keep it focused on the thing over there, and that way we can have a back and forth conversation. Next thing you know, there's some, it breaks the wall. It breaks that air, and that sort of thing. And you end up talking, and lo and behold, you ask for their information right after that. And like I said, feeling the vibe is important. If they seem standoffish, just say another comment about the art or whatever else you're looking at or talking about, or food or drink or tea or coffee, or what I mean, whatever it is. That was the central point focus. Make one more comment about it and bounce. You know what I mean? Don't hang around like a simp and things like that, and move on. That's my advice. So yes, Asian, Hispanic, and I believe even Indian. And as far as the Becky's, the white girls, like I said, you run into them everywhere. It's just more than likely trying to figure out who likes you, because they're, like I said, everywhere. And you'll never know when that could happen. It could happen when you go into a convenience store to pay for your gas, at the Mobil or Chevron. It could happen in the mall. It could happen, hell, anywhere. Grocery store. You never know. The workplace. I don't know. You never know when that can happen. So anyway, thanks for listening. This is Alter Ego Xer.